People of the internet, hope you're doing well out there today. There was a hearing on the Twitter files today, as I'm sure you probably already know. And friend of the show, Matt Taibbi, was I whistle through my teeth a lot. Friend of the show, Matt Taibbi, was questioned. And I call him friend of the show just because I like him, not because I know him or he's actually a friend of the show. But I wanted to share some clips with y'all and talk about them because there were a couple different interesting happenings. So let's jump into that.
I have here, which I'd like to enter into the record, the Trump-Ukraine impeachment inquiry report.
Okay, right there. These people, these Democrats still live in Trump land. This guy lives rent-free in all their heads. It's all they have. They're still running against Trump, and he hasn't been president for 2 years. Let's keep watching.
300 pages by the House Intelligence Committee. Did you review this report before you said that every fact in this story was accurate?
Without objection, the material be entered in the record.
Did I read that before I read the Twitter files? No. Okay. If you read this, you would have known that every single State Department and Trump administration expert on Ukraine said that Vice President Joe Biden, in concert with the European Union and the IMF, was executing official U.S. policy by encouraging Ukraine to fire the prosecutor general because he was not prosecuting corruption and was not prosecuting companies like Burisma.
This guy sounds like he is auditioning for a show on MSNBC. He's going to have a half hour, or auditioning as a guest appearer on Rachel Maddow or Chris Hayes or something.
So that story, notwithstanding your allegations, was false, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Now recognize the chair. Now recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Gates, for 5 minutes.
Impeachment nostalgia always warms my heart, but we are here focused on a weaponized government, a whole of government approach that has been turned against the American people. And while Rudy Giuliani may have been running around with the laptop in 2020, what is an indisputable fact is that the FBI had the laptop in 2019. And
we live in a world now where this guy is the most honest person in the room, unfortunately, and he's a Republican. He happens to be a Republican, but I mean, this thing turned into like a campaign ad for these people or something.
it appears that the last round of questioning misses the boat, that it's true. The information is authentic. The pictures, the videos, the emails, there hasn't been a single allegation that there is a single doctored email. Unlike what we saw before the FISA courts, where the FBI itself was doctoring emails to try to smear President Trump.
He's talking about the Russiagate stuff, which again, the media turned Trump into a Russian stooge. And I feel like everything I saw about him in the mainstream press was fake. It really was fake. The press was an arm of the security state that was just, Trump was a shock to the system. They were like, whoa, this guy wasn't supposed to happen. The media was supposed to comfortably move Hillary Clinton into that presidential role so that Jake Sullivan could be the national security guy and this person could be in this state role, and because from the carryover from the Obama administration. And when that didn't happen, they went insane. The intelligence community. Anyway, I got way sidetracked there, but Gates is right, is the point.
One of their recommendations was that the FTC be empowered to have unlimited power to search all data of private companies, so that they could more freely and more accurately search the speech of ordinary citizens. So as we're trying to put downward pressure on the government's expanding authority to be able to engage in what we see mostly from dictatorships. What you're reporting and what you're observing is that actually they view this as a growth industry, the information business, right? This
Yes.
censorship industrial complex is a growth industry to the government.
I think the key thing also, yes, and the thing to understand is that NSF.
Russian propaganda. Everything's Russian propaganda now. And you got to buy this special software to keep Russian propaganda out.
What is NewsGuard and how are they part of the censorship industrial complex?
Yeah, and
So I know exactly what NewsGuard is as someone who worked in the digital marketing, digital advertising world. It stems out of a thing called the Trusted News Initiative. And the Trusted News Initiative basically says that, hey, we decide what's true and what's not. And what NewsGuard does is it takes that, and if you don't fall under the Trusted News Initiative, if you're trying to report something that they say isn't true, they take your money away. They take your ad money.
by the way, we talked about Richard Stengel. He's on the board of NewsGuard. NewsGuard and the Disinformation Index are both U.S. government-funded entities who are working to drive advertiser revenue away from disfavored publications and towards the ones that they favor. This is totally
what I'm used to in this town is government officials pick their favorite outlets and they give them the best scoops and they give them the best stories. And there's a fusion of media and government that has long made me uncomfortable. But what you're describing now is literally the directing of revenue to certain media companies over other media companies designed and implemented with U.S. government funding and support.
That's right.
This is heavy. I mean,
that is an astonishing way. If we do not take a look at NewsGuard, we have failed. And you talk about the brave reporting that occurs and what it subjects you to. I would suggest there's also political bravery that I have observed. While we've only heard from Democrats on this panel attacking you.
So this is good. Matt Gaetz is an honorable guy. I got to give this guy credit. So far, what I've seen him say and do, he walks the walk. I mean, they're having these hearings, I think, largely because of what he did by opposing McCarthy and forcing concessions out of him. All the January 6th footage that Tucker Carlson has came from Gaetz and these guys forcing the vote like Jimmy Dore wanted the progressives to do. Imagine that.
Discrediting you, a lot like they've tried to attack and discredit FBI whistleblowers who are truth tellers. There are brave Democrats who still believe in free speech. And I would advise my colleagues to look at the comments of Ro Khanna, who has been deeply, deeply concerned about this weaponization of government. And he believes these Twitter files are indeed worthy of our focus and our energy. And that is exactly what we are going to do. I yield back.
Now I'll recognize the gentlelady from New York.
I still have my 5 minutes, Mr. Chair.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
I understand why you may not.
Because you were yielded 5. The gentleman from New York is recognized for 5 minutes. Excuse me.
Mr. Schellenberger, I may have misheard earlier, but is it your testimony here today that you disagree? It's by Special Counsel Robert Mueller that definitively established that Russia interfered in our 2016 election through social media disinformation and a hack and leak operation?
No, I don't disagree.
Okay, Mr. Taibbi, do you disagree with those 2 indictments?
Well, I don't. Indictments aren't a thing to.
Do you disagree? They're about 40 or 50 pages. Do you disagree with the
indictments are not prosecutions? That's this guy. Oh my God! Watch this. This guy is such a piece of it.
Evidence outlined in those indictments.
Well, indictments are just charges. When
I just asked you, do you disagree with the evidence included in those indictments? Yes or no?
I'm not on the jury of that case. I couldn't possibly say yes or no.
Okay, because you said earlier, I believe, that you did not see Russia. You could not confirm that Russia interfered in our election in 2016. That you don't believe that. Is that your testimony here today? You don't believe that they did?
I think it's possible that they may have on a small scale, but certainly not to what's been reported.
What's been reported or what?
So I've gone over this before, but again, as someone who used to work in digital marketing and advertising, Russia did not have any effect on our election whatsoever. None. Anyway, let's keep going.
What's been included in the indictments?
Well, again, indictments are allegations, they're not proof. And
I understand it's pretty detailed allegations.
In the Mueller
Indictments are not prosecutions.
indictment, by the way.
You should go read the indictment and then come back and tell us if you actually think there's no proof of it.
Just like accusations are not prosecutions. People accuse people of all kinds of ridiculous things in this year. 2023. Oh, if you disagree with someone, you're a Nazi. Everyone gets called a pedophile and a Nazi, which are very serious claims that you need to come with hard evidence if you're going to make towards someone, because that's a career-ending claim, you know, to throw at someone. Anyway.
Well, let me move on.
Let me move on, please. By the way,
please let me move on. That's how this works. You should know that by now.
So this guy is completely auditioning for a show on MSNBC. What a joke.
So I just asked you, do you disagree with the evidence included in those indictments? Yes or no?
I'm not on the jury of that case. I couldn't possibly say yes or no.
Okay, because you said earlier, I believe, that you did not see Russia. You could not confirm that Russia interfered in our election in 2016, that you don't believe that. Is that your testimony here today? You don't believe that they did?
I think it's...
What does this have to do with the Twitter files? This has nothing. This guy is a joke of a...
Possible that they may have on a small scale, but certainly not to what's been reported.
What's been reported or what's been included in the indictments?
Well, again, indictments are allegations, they're not proof. And
I understand it's pretty detailed allegations.
In the Mueller indictment, by the way.
You should go read the indictment and then come back and tell us if you actually think there's no proof of it.
Well,
but let me move on.
Let me move on, please. By the way,
please let me move on.
This guy is such a joke of a man. Obviously, he'll probably replace Lawrence O'Donnell.
How this works, you should know that by now. So do you disagree with the special counsel Mueller's conclusion in his report, Mr. Taibbi, that the Trump campaign knew about Russia's interference, they welcomed it, and they used it for their benefit? You have no reason to disagree with that, don't you? You have no information.
See, the Democrats don't stand for anything. They haven't done anything of note. I mean, I keep saying you vote for Republicans, you get Republican policies. You vote for Democrats, you get Republican policies. So all they can do is scream about Russia and Trump.
So after that foreign interference in our 2016 election, Twitter and other social media companies.
So this guy's already starting on a false premise. This guy's whole argument is based on the idea that Russia hacked the election, and they clearly didn't unless you're a buffoon. Anything bad, they blame on Russia now. They said Putin supported Bernie Sanders. I keep calling him Bernie Sanders. They said Putin supported Bernie Sanders. They said Putin supported Tulsi Gabbard.
Are you trying to say that the FBI had no basis to inform social media companies about efforts to potentially interfere in our elections after 2016?
I can tell you that I read internal Twitter emails where Twitter expressly talked about the fact that the FBI couldn't possibly know more than they did about whether or not there was Russian interference, and that in fact even they couldn't determine which accounts were actually IRA and which ones weren't.
Okay, I understand you like to filibuster. That was not an answer to my question. But I'll move on. Mr. Schellenberger, in all of the emails that you reviewed, did the
This guy is like a high school guidance counselor or high school principal, and his entire statement here is based on a falsehood, a proven falsehood. So, I mean, it's interesting that that's the way that Democrats are nowadays. They think they're dunking on people when they're actually dunking on themselves. He looks stupid. He looks like an idiot, and he's acting like he's the smart one over this. The evidence is out there. The evidence is in. If Trump was truly a Russian asset, he would be in jail. There's no evidence to prosecute him or any of his associates. If you look at the indictments of people like Michael Flynn, for example, or Paul Manafort, they were illegitimate. Paul Manafort's indictment was for something he did that long predated the 2016 election. He was lobbying in Ukraine. And Michael Flynn, I've talked about this before, but they wiretapped him, the FBI wiretapped him, and then asked him questions about what he said. And then they arrested him for lying because what he said didn't line up with their wiretap, basically. Anyway, this guy's an idiot.
FBI ever direct Twitter to take down any accounts or remove any posts?
Yes.
They directed Twitter to remove them, or they said these may violate your terms and services?
Yes. I think that's an accurate use of the word direct.
They said these may violate. You think that the saying that these may violate your terms and conditions is the same as directing them to take an account down?
Yeah, I mean, I think if a police officer says,
"All right, well,
that's
very helpful." That's very helpful. I'm glad to know that you think flagging something for a private company to make a decision about what they should do is a direction.
This guy is such a douche. Where did he come from? I've never seen him before. He kind of, he's like the ultimate bootlicker here. Like, what, he's like defending the FBI and like what against the mean reporters. What? Oh, I got to defend the FBI against these bad reporters that are exposing the truth. How can I defend the FBI?
Now, Mr. Chair,
poor FBI.
Chairman, yeah, you have repeatedly said that this committee is all about protecting the First Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
And what's unfortunate here is that we are talking about Twitter, and that we are not talking about Republican government officials around the country who are banning books. And we are not talking
again. Let's have another hearing. Set up another hearing. I've heard this a lot, and I've never seen it in firsthand. And also, maybe they're burning books because no one goes to libraries anymore, and everything's digital now, and they need to like free up space. I don't know. Like, this is weird. Burning books. What year is it? 1950? I mean, yeah, people burned bras in the 70s or 60s. What do you want? This is so random. Again, it's just interesting to watch these guys do mental gymnastics to try and defend the FBI.
We are not talking about Donald Trump jailing his former counsel to prohibit.
Here he goes with the Donald Trump again. Trump hasn't been president for 2 years. He must be great for fundraising. I guess if Democrats just send out an email and with Trump's name in it, they get a donation maybe on it. So this other clip, I saw this on Rising and I didn't want to dig it up. But here's Debbie Wasserman Schultz going after Matt Taibbi. And again, these Democrats, they must be angling for shows on MSNBC or something.
Please do not interrupt me. Elon Musk spoon-fed you his cherry-picked information, which you must have suspected.
Okay, so the Democrats using this term cherry picking, that's what this is about. It was about you guys cherry picking. Oh, the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation, so we can't let that be published. No, it wasn't Russian disinformation. And you got found out. And now you can't just call everything Russian disinformation that is uncomfortable or inconvenient, like I do. When girls say stuff like, hey, your hairline's really creeping up, I say, oh, that's Russian disinformation. You know?
It promotes a slanted viewpoint, or at the very least, generates another right-wing conspiracy theory. You violated your own standard, and you appear to have benefited from it. Before the release of the emails in August of last year, you had 661,000 Twitter followers. After the Twitter files, your followers doubled, and now it's 3 times what it was last year.
Oh my goodness. You got more followers from this. Of course he did. It's a story that everyone wants to read.
August. I imagine your Substack readership, which is a subscription, increased significantly because of the work that you did for Elon Musk. Now, I'm not asking you to put a dollar figure on it, but it's quite obvious that you've profited from the Twitter files. You hit the jackpot on that Vegas slot machine to which you referred. That's true, isn't it?
I've also reinvested.
You made some. No. Is it true that you?
Okay. This is the absolute dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life, because everyone works for money. Oh, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, you ran for Congress. Do you get a check from Congress? Oh, you're doing it for money. When you ran for Congress, when you got into that role, when they voted you in, did you get more? Did you get a pay raise? Did you? Yeah. She was forced to resign from the DNC when she was exposed as cheating on behalf of Hillary Clinton, and that's a whole other wormhole we don't have to go down today, about how the DNC basically rigs their primaries, and it's not actually a democracy at all in that party. They give the nod to the person that they want to give it to, which is why Biden is in there right now. So it's definitely interesting to watch this stuff and watch the difference between the parties. And the Democrats are still running against Trump and defending the FBI for some reason, instead of asking questions like, hey, was anything on the left censored? Was, when, the Twitter files go back to before Biden was president, was Trump censoring anyone? You don't see any questions like that. You don't see them going like, oh, did Bernie Sanders get canceled? No, because they don't care about that. They're just running against Trump still and defending the FBI and defending censorship. It's bonkers. It's not the Democratic Party that I remember or ever wanted to be a part of. And Matt Gaetz in all this is the one who comes out looking like the champ. He's the guy who's arguing for transparency. He even calls out Ro Khanna as one of the few Democrats that's helping out and, shocked and horrified by what happened, as any rational person should be. I mean, how do we go around the world and push for democracy? How do we, I think that's one of the reasons the Ukraine war is such a joke, is we're out there like, oh, democracy. Yeah, we don't have democracy here. Okay, like what high ground do we have to be out here trying to act like we're the arbiters of democracy? We're not. And this kind of stuff proves it. But thanks for listening.